Hi, I'm Öner and I am the research group lead for the NATECLA strand of the OTLA 8 research programme this year. And I'm here just to talk to you about, well, the benefits really of doing a poster to summarise your action research project. So why do a poster then to summarise your research? Well, stating the obvious, posters are a visual representation of your research project and their findings. And presenting a poster provides excellent medium for knowledge transfer, and it's really good practice in explaining quickly and clearly why your project is important and what your findings mean. Actually, if you look into it, some of the research itself shows that poster imagery is much more likely to draw a reader's attention and break down any barriers to academic content that might normally exist. So what are the key advantages of posters then? Well, you can choose to highlight the key points to suit your audience. So you can put info at the forefront that you think that teachers will find more engaging, or you could swap your design around a bit if your target audience is managers. Posters, well, they're a lot less dry than your usual way to represent survey results, for example, which can go on for several pages long with a mixture of text and graphs. And, you can easily lose interest looking through all of those graphs. One of the key things really is to have a title that's short and draws attention. Like infographics, of which I'm a big fan, a poster doesn't have to have too much text on it. The basis is that it's easy to read. You've used text features such as bullet points and numbering, and effective use of colour and imagery also to make the text as engaging and as accessible as possible. You can also include any acknowledgements you might have. You can quote any organisation names or credits, use logos, etc., just to make it even more visually engaging. So what I've got on screen now is a poster of my recent action research project, which I carried out for my ATS, Advanced Teacher Status Journey. The action research project that I did looked at the effectiveness of informal CPD via the NATECLA webinars that were put on at the start of the first lockdown in 2020. And the research was looking at how, for teachers, how effective webinars were during the COVID-19 pandemic, and also for managers and organisation, how effective they were in improving teaching and learning in general. So you can have a look at this poster in a little bit more detail, but just I suppose your idea is, okay, I'm liking the sound of it, but where do I begin? Well, I think the first thing to do is to decide what is the most important or interesting thing in your research. Put it in the middle of the page and then add your ideas around it, your introductions, your conclusions, your recommendations. Key titles is also a key thing to think about. So you want to put in your purpose, your aims of your research. What was the trigger for your research? How did you carry it out? What were the methods? Some of the key findings, and hopefully you've got some recommendations at the end of it that can go there. On my poster, I've always also got a little section there to talk about professional reading, and I have got some stats for survey results. Treat it a little bit like a spidergram. Key idea in the middle, other ideas connected to it, and I think you'll find that your ideas will flow really nicely. And then you can have fun adding the finishing touches with your colours and your graphs and your images. Anyway, I've enjoyed doing my poster. I hope you do too. Thank you.
Hi folks. This little part of our action research poster resource is going to be walking you through the practicalities of actually how to make one. So I'm going to be doing this on PowerPoint. However, bear in mind that the things I'm going to show you could easily be used on slides or Keynote, whatever your favourite presentation software is. You could also do it on things like Publisher or even Word. Depending on what your favourite is. I personally really rate using PowerPoint. I'm using PowerPoint on a Mac, so it looks a little bit different. You may be looking at this going, that looks a little bit weird to what I'm used to. Well, that's because I'm using PowerPoint on a Mac. I'm not using Keynote, which is usually what someone would use on a Mac, because I really like using all the different options that you have on PowerPoint for creating not just presentations, creating worksheets, even design, so making flyers, posters, even GIFs, you know. Ask me to do it and I'll try and do it in PowerPoint. I really like the kind of things that you can do on it. So I'm going to show you just a few little tips and tricks of things that you can do on PowerPoint, and then after this I'm going to hand you on over to Emily, who's going to show you some really creative things that you could do with your posters. But I will say, bearing in mind that think about who your audience is and the kind of information that you want to get across. It doesn't have to be all bells and whistles, you know, but if you can make it as visually appealing as possible and allow folk and help folks by using a few little visual tricks to really tell your story and follow through your story. So the way that we can do that is by using different shapes, images, graphic organizers, things like that, rather than just lots of text. Because if someone wanted lots of text, they go and read your report. So that's why we use a poster, so that we can add all these different visual elements in, but a fine line, not too much, so a good balance. Okay, so let's kick off. So in front of you, you can see my a blank window, a blank canvas, in fact, on PowerPoint. And the main things that we would use, the main tabs that we would use when doing some kind of design work in PowerPoint are your Home tab, your Insert tab, and then if you add something like an image, then another tab will come up at the end over here, which will be called Picture Format, and that you'd use that tab as well. A lot of what is accessible on your tabs is also accessible on your menu at the top as well, and some of it is also accessible via a right click too. For some of it, it's whatever's preferable for you, whichever way you like to access that information. But the one thing that we really need to start with, and I would 100% recommend that you do this first and foremost, is find out what size your poster needs to be. So once you found that out, go to the Design tab, and this is the one really the main time that we would use this Design tab. Go to your slide size, arrow down. You can see there, as it's a presentation, it defaults to a standard ratio or a widescreen for presenting, but we want it to be a poster. So let's go to page setup, and here we can change it. It gives you a few that are already done for you. So we've got A3 paper, A4 paper, but you know what, if we've been asked to do A1, that's generally quite a good A1 or A2 is generally what you might be asked for when it comes to a research poster. So to do that, I'm going to go to Custom, and then I'm going to change here, it's centimetres, so I'm going to change for A1, and A1 is 84 by 59. There we go. Check that the orientation is correct. I want it to be landscape. It's generally in landscape rather than portrait for your poster. Again, check that information too. Click OK, and here it's going to ask me whether I want to scale up anything that's already on there, but there's nothing on there right now, so it doesn't really matter. But if you're doing this after you've started work on it, bear in mind whether you want it to scale up or scale down. There we go. All right. Wait just a moment and it's going to change the size of it for us. Fantastic. So that, believe it or not, is our A1 canvas. And this button down here is a little zoom button, which is fantastic because it allows us to zoom in and out so that we can really see how big everything is. So that's why I really like PowerPoint. There we go. So we can see exactly what we've got. So it looks quite small in front of us right now, but obviously that's A1. So that's going to be very, very big. So let's next think about the kind of things that we want to add on here. And what I recommend is not just throwing lots and lots of text at it. As we said before, it's not a report. It's not a written narrative report, but it does need to have a journey, and we can show that journey in images and in visuals. So if we go to insert, here is where we can add some really great stuff. If we go to shapes, for example, this is what I like to do. I like to organize like a little patchwork quilt, I guess, of all the different things that I would like to be put on here. Pop that down. See, that's too red. We want more of a pastel color, I think. There we go. Okay, so we can put black text over that. Okay, and I'm going to copy that. Depending on how you like to do that, you could do that via a shortcut or right click. I'm just doing it via right click to show you there. Okay, and to change color again, you see I'm going to shape fill to change that color. Let's go for blue. I can change the line as well by clicking this up here, and that allows me to change the line. I could have no line, in fact. That's quite nice to just have no line on either of them, no outline. Okay, and they could be a few different sections of my report. There we go. Okay, one more. Let's go for a yellow one. There we go. I've just done the outline. There we go, and fill. Brilliant, great stuff. Okay, so that's 3 different sections of the report. Obviously you can change the shape. So if you've written, if it's just a rationale or your initial aims and actually you only need it to be that big, you can quite easily maneuver these things around. But I quite like to just kind of like get things set up like that. So you've got these different shapes, and you can also, if you notice, this one's behind this one and it could butt up against it, or you could actually have it on top of it. And the way that you can do that is by right clicking and then clicking bring to front, and that will bring that pink square to the front. Okay. Now right now, when this is quite empty like this, you might think, when would I use this? But when you actually get going and you start adding and layering lots and lots of boxes and lots of shapes on top of one another, you'll probably start using that quite a lot, the bring to front or send to back. So I might want to send that red one back again. So if I right click again and then send to back, and then it'll send it behind the blue one. So it's just choosing where that layering is and how you layer those different things up. All right, next is we've got these images. Now we need some text on here. So back to insert, text box, and then click on there, and there we go. Ooh, what have we got? Our rationale, there we go. And then move that up there. Okay, fantastic stuff. If you've got quite a few things as well, actually. So if I, let me move this rationale. I'm going to move this rationale box to the front. Move this to the front as well. There we go. Okay, and then I'm going to select all of these, so the rationale pink box and that rationale text. I'm going to right click and then group. There we go, and then that allows me to move all of that around. So if you've got in that box lots of text and a few little emojis or different images, then it allows you to just move that whole section around. So that's really good and really useful. Now I noticed I mentioned emojis then, didn't I? And I quite like using little simple emojis or images. And in fact you can, because there's so many emojis these days, you know, it's not just like a smiley face and a sad face and a laugh and a middle. You know, you've got loads of different options, and the way that you can access those emojis is a few different ways. One is by copying and pasting them. You can go on the internet and find emoji dictionaries, and you can copy and paste them from there. Or there's a few different shortcuts. So if you're on a Mac, it's Control, Command and Spacebar, and that will bring up a little emoji dictionary for you. Or if you are on a computer, then you can click the little Windows button and a full stop, a period, and that will bring up the dictionary for you. However, I also have, you might notice up here, I have an Emoji Keyboard, which I think is really funky and I really like it. And I actually got that little Emoji Keyboard, it's going to load for you there so you can see it, by clicking add-ons. And you can get loads and loads of different add-ins for PowerPoint, and this is one that I use lots and lots. All right, okay. Whilst that's loading so you can see what it looks like, then I'm going to show you how you could add images and the kinds of images that you might like to add. Oh, there we go. Cool. Okay, let's go. Let's add one before I go to images. There we go. A little rationale. Smiley face. There we go. And it's huge and it becomes its own image. There we go. Okay, now when I started, if you notice, as I started changing the shape of it there, it makes it, it could be any shape and it actually doesn't seem to hold it because I'm just using the mouse. But what I might like to do is, so there's my skewed version there, I can actually change the size and shape of it using my mouse, but if I press shift at the same time, then it will keep it, like I can't skew that, it won't go, I can't make it slimmer or weird shaped as I did before, I can't stretch and skew it, it will hold its size. So that's by me clicking it and clicking shift. Okay, and I got a little bit excited about those emojis then and ended up adding 3, didn't I? Let's delete that one in the middle. Okay, so what you might like to put in the middle of your poster, however, is something like an image. It could be maybe a prompt image that you've used in your research, things like that. It could also be a graphic organizer. Smart Art up here is really, really good. Look at all these different options that you can have, and I think it visually, this is all about visuals, isn't it, on your poster, you know, kind of representing your research visually. And I love these because it just automatically does these for you, and they're great at showing all the different processes of how all of your research links together. So these are great, especially I think for action research. So you can click on there and then click on whichever one you like, and you can add your information into them, or you could add your own image in. And the way that you could do that is by clicking on pictures up here and then add a photo from file. Or you could just grab it and drag it in. That's what I like to do. So mine's on my desktop right now, and I'm just going to click it. It goes to a little plus button, if you see there, and then just drag it on in. There it is. That's my image. That's one of the prompt images that I used for my research. So how cool is that? Okay, so that is the main things that I wanted to share with you when it comes to you know, there's loads more that you can do and you can explore. You can change all your fonts. There's lots of different things that you can do with images. If you click on that image that I've just popped on there, then we've got picture format. I mentioned that would come up before. You've got lots of stuff that you can do with it. Shadow, put a border on it. You can actually remove the background. So if this had a dark background on it, you could remove the background on the Venn diagram, so it'd just be circles. There's loads of different things that you can do with it, so have a little play. But remember, you can have a play, be super, super creative with it if you want to push yourself in that way, or you can just, you know, do what you would like to do, what you're happy and what you're comfortable with doing with your poster, how you want your poster to look. So with that being said, I'm going to show you a poster that I made recently for my action research. So I'm going to, in good Blue Peter style, here's one I made earlier. All right, sorry, I don't want to save it. There we go. All right, cool. Okay, so this is one that I made earlier. This is some research that I did for my ATS, my Advanced Teacher Status portfolio last year, and this was a poster that I created. As you can see here, I've done it in 3 sections. And I was using a metaphor for my research. I really like using metaphors and visuals in that way to make sense of processes and make sense of things that I'm researching and just the world around me generally and my practice. So I was using this cooking and culinary metaphor, and I thought when we were asked to make a poster, I thought, what better way to do a poster than make it look like a menu? And I thought I was thinking about these 3-layer menus that fold over, and I thought that lends itself really well to a poster. So I separated it in 3 sections, and as you can see there, my little emoji, they're little emojis. You may not even notice that they're emojis, but they are little emojis. I've doubled up some emojis here, a little person with a coffee in front of it as a quote from someone, and I changed all the different titles to more culinary kind of titles. But something I wanted to show you 2 things on this particular poster before I hand you over to Emily, and that is, if I select, you'll be able to see all of the different things that make up this poster. So they're all just tiny little things that add up. So we've got text boxes in here, we've got emojis and images, and we've also got a few shapes and graphics. We've got QR codes, things like that. So there's lots of little bits that kind of add on into your poster. But the great thing about PowerPoint is it allows you to just freely move them about as you wish. And the last thing I'd like to say before I hand on over is, if you see at the bottom here, I've put QR codes. And I've also, under the literatures, I've put links, but those links are fully written out. And that's because this poster is to be printed. It's not to be interacted with digitally. If it was to be interacted with digitally, then they would just be simple hyperlinks and they wouldn't just be written out HTTPS, etc. And a QR code, you wouldn't use a QR code if it was something someone was going to interact with digitally. You'd maybe make it into a short link, maybe using something like Bitly. So think about that, consider that too when you are making your posters, making it something that is if it's to be printed out, then consider the kinds of things that you put on there and how you do them. All right, fantastic folks. I hope you enjoy making your research posters. I thoroughly enjoyed making this one and had maybe a little bit too much fun. But there's loads of ways that you can do them, and I'm really looking forward to seeing lots of research posters. Thanks and bye now.
Hi, I'm Emily Bryson, and I am one of the Action Research Mentors at OTLA. I am going to talk to you today about making your posters as engaging as possible. I am an ESOL teacher and I am also a graphic facilitator, so I am pretty good with sketchnoting, and a graphic recorder as well. So I'm going to show you some things that you can give you some ideas of how to make your posters amazing. Okay, so this is a sketch note that I did recently for a webinar on accessibility. I quite like doing this as a way of helping me remember what to say during talks. It's also a way of making information really accessible. So don't worry, I'm not expecting you to make a sketch note necessarily, but I will take you through if you are interested. I'm going to give you other tips as well, because I know that not everybody's going to be keen on the idea of drawing out their posters. Okay, so this is just an example. Okay, next slide. Okay, so firstly, be careful with the font that you choose. Serif fonts are often more difficult for readers with specific learning differences, such as dyslexia, to read. So it's best to stick to sans serif fonts. So sans serif fonts are fonts such as Comic Sans, Trebuchet, Calibri, Arial. They don't have these little they don't have flicks or tails, whereas this one does have flicks or tails. Font size 44 is good for headings. Be aware that font size 12 is good for printed documents. I'm not entirely sure what an A1 size. I would go for something maybe 24 or maybe 16 for the main body of your text. And then for the headings, maybe 28 or even 44 to make it bigger. But be aware that font size 12 might be quite small. So maybe 14, 16, probably preferable. Be aware of colour as well when you are thinking about your posters. There are lots of different issues with colour. So for example, this top one, the yellow is a little bit difficult to read, especially with the green background. Yellow in general isn't the best text color. It can be a bit, it's just not so easy to read. The second one is not so bad. What you need is a different contrast in colors. Try to make the contrast as big as possible. So if the text is really light, then the background should be really dark, and vice versa. This one, I think the purple could probably be a little bit darker, to be honest, but I think it's okay. Green and blue, sorry, that's not blue. Green and red don't go well together, especially for learners with color blindness. So it's really difficult to read. They won't be able to distinguish that there's any text there at all. So avoid red and green combinations. Number 4 is probably the best one. So light or off-white background, and then dark black, dark grey, dark navy text. Too much colour can be distracting, and each word looks completely separate. So be aware of that as well. And in number 6, the contrast of the colours are too similar, so avoid this if you can. To make your posters more engaging, add in pictures. We like pictures. If anybody likes pictures, take a photo with your camera, or I quite like using the Cam Scanner app, and then you can cut the size really easily. You can crop it easily. You can also make the brightness. There's lots of different filters on it that can make it much easier to read very easily and make it very professional looking. The Noun project is a good way to get icons in there. They're free icons that you can just copy and paste in. Cocoa Material has some really nice, they're icons, but they're hand-drawn icons, so they're quite fun. You can check that out, they're all free too. And Pixabay has lots of vector graphics and images that you can use. They are, of course, stock photos, and the issue with stock photos is diversity. A lot of stock photos tend to use, I don't know, if you see a family, it'll be a 2.4 children family that are all white, you know. So you want a bit of diversity in your pictures. So if you're looking for stock photos, if you want some people of colour, then nappy.co is a good website. These are all free. Gender photos, if you would like pictures to represent different genders, such as trans, for example. If you would like, if you would like older people or disabled people to be represented, the Centre for Aging Better. Also, women of colour in tech is a good place for pictures of women in colour in technology and STEM roles, so science, technology, engineering and maths kind of roles. And disabilityin.org is good for positive pictures of disabled people. Okay, so these are some stock photo sites that are good for diversity and inclusion, and they're all free, which is good, and accessible. But do check that you're for the individual image what the rights are. You might need to add something about like cite who it is, who took the photo. Just look for the advice on that. Okay, so I'm going to take you through some sketch notes as well. So these are, so if you want to do sketch noting, this is with, you might have an Apple tablet, for example, maybe with Procreate on it. I use Adobe Fresco, so you can use different layers. So this, I've got a yellow layer as the background, and then on top of that, there's some black text that I've used with my drawing pen. And then you can just erase some of the background. I try to use lots of different layers for different icons and text, and then you can erase bits. I obviously can't teach you all the tips of sketchnoting here, but I can just give you the idea of it. You can also have a look at some of the icons here that you might want to draw yourself to make things more engaging. Graphic facilitation and graphic recording is all about basically copying icons. So for example, if you wanted inspiration, you could go back to the Noun project or Cocoa Material and copy some of the icons there, and then just insert them into your poster. Some little doodles and drawings that will just make things a bit more engaging and make it stand out. You can do it digitally. So when you look at sketch notes, I've got the heading at the top here, and then 9 little squares, and then a summary at the bottom. So that's one example of layout. Another example of layout, this is from a webinar that Marek Hitchkowiak did for National Geographic Learning, and I sketch noted it. So you've got the heading in a banner, and I'll show you how to draw that in just a minute. And then his name in another banner, which I will also show you how to draw in a minute. You've got some bullet points with stars, and then the triangles for kind of caution. Be wary of using these. Arrows are good for showing connections as well. Speech bubbles for showing communication and speech. Layout wise, we've got a heading here, we've got bullets here, little bullet sections. You could have different colours in the background to make them stand out. I could actually have sectioned these off a bit. It could probably do with a bit more white space down here, if I'm being critical. And just to be aware that white space is quite important when it comes to posters as well. So what I mean about white space is the gaps here. So as much as you don't want your poster to feel crushed. I'll show you a little bit more about that shortly. So for example, this one is the prime example. This was one of the first sketch notes that I did. It was for Harry Waters' talk at Innovate on becoming a lean green teaching machine. And so I used for this, you can have friction pens. There are friction pens, and I can't find, there's felt tip versions of these, and they're erasable, so which makes life a lot easier. So yeah, you could have the main points down the side. This is one of my first sketch notes, and I'm going to be quite critical of it to help you see the differences. Firstly, there's too much colour. I think it would be much better if all the text was in one colour. So here I've used blue, here I've used black. It would be much better if it was all in black, like a standard one text colour. Things like this box, this is all quite squashed. It could do with a bit more space. So giving things space can really make things more attractive. What else would I change about this? I could give a banner here, so maybe put something similar to this around the heading. Maybe put the heading up the top as well. So with sketchnoting, you'll maybe find that the top, so in this one, the heading is at the top, and then it kind of goes down the way like this with the information. Here, it's all a bit higgledy-piggledy, scattered around. You kind of want the information to go across, to start maybe the top right and then work the way down as you would with a reading text. Or you could have it in different rows. But yeah, just be aware of your layout. So for this one, for example, this is quite a good example. Got a section here which has been sectioned off by a kind of cloud. Got the heading in the top. Big text for the main heading, and then smaller text for the subheading. And then we've got a mind map in the corner. Could probably do with a bit more white space here. So we're just giving it, moving it down. This has got plenty of space in the corner. So I've used like a whiteboard as the border here. You can get creative with the container so that you can use, for example, a book, for example. You could write inside the book, or you could write inside the notes, or inside this magnifying glass. Okay, and here you've got different points circled, and I've only used black and blue here, which I think just makes it look a bit more classy. So those are some tips for sketchnoting. I'm going to show you some little icons and how to draw them now. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to draw some of the icons that you might want to add to your banner, your posters, just to make them a bit more fun, or just, you can also just use these with your classes. So this is one of the banner. Would basically start with a rectangle, and then you draw a kind of ribbon at the sides and bring it in a little bit further, and then bring it up, and then add a triangle. So same again. Okay, and that's your banner. And you can maybe write your name in it. I'm going to use a better pen. Okay, you could also, if you want a really simple banner, more like a plaque really, you could have the rectangle and then just put some little dots in the corner and then add your name again. Okay, so we've been doing research for the last 6 months or so. And if you want to draw research, you could draw a magnifying glass to look at searching. And you can add a couple of little lines to show what you're looking at. The other way to draw search is to have a rectangle and then a triangle within it, as if you're searching online. If you want a book for research, like you're drawing, remember when you used to draw seagulls? But like that, and then down, and then same again. And then that can be your book. You can add text, you can add a picture, and then text if you want. You can add a cover. Great. If you want a notebook, notebook's really handy one to know. Very simple, rectangle or a square, and then some little C shapes at the side. All of our students this year have progressed, and to show progression, you can just draw a set of stairs with an arrow going up the way. You can talk about it like baby steps. You could talk about goals as well. You could have goals at the top here to achieve different steps to go up. If you want to draw a clock to represent time, it's literally just a circle and then an L in the middle. Light bulb. Light bulbs are brilliant because you can use them for so many things. So you can use a light bulb for ideas, you can use it for creativity, you can use it for energy, you can use it for critical thinking, so many different ways that you can use the representation of a light bulb. And you could just do this as an M if you would prefer, rather than the zigzag. So and also if you want to have digital skills, a lot of you have been doing things with digital skills or computers. So you just need to give the idea of keys for typing. Yeah, that's your laptop. So a rectangle or a square, 2 bits coming out and then another line. A lot of drawing is basically just giving the impression of something. It's not, and especially graphic facilitation style drawing is not art, it's communication. So these are just parts of a visual vocabulary. If you want to draw a phone, it's a rectangle with gentle edges and then 2 little lines to show a reflection. And you could have a little button for where your thumb warms it up and lets you in. Group work. If you want to draw a person or people, just draw an N shape and then circles. So when you've got group work, you can add that and then add a round with the arrow. Obviously, we are teachers, so a classroom is important. So I think I showed you that in one of the sketch notes. So do a rectangle and just leave a little bit of a space for your arm to go. And then a circle, 2 legs, a head, and then that's your teacher. And you can join it up a bit if you want. If you want the students who are very engaged in the lesson, they're paying lots of attention, you can just draw them like this. So a couple of lines to show the backs of their heads. You can add the face going sideways as if they're looking at the whiteboard as well. So those are some icons that may help you to make your posters more engaging. I hope you enjoyed that drawing demonstration and had a bit of fun with that, and that you're feeling inspired to create your posters now. If you would like some information about creating accessible learning materials, then you can have a look on my blog, emilybrysonelt.com, Creating Accessible Learning Materials. There's a video that I created with John Hughes as well, which talks about the same topic, and it's embedded on the publications and media page. You should be able, they should come up when you search for it, but I'll ask OTLA to share these links too. So thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to follow me, Emily Bryson ELT, I'm happy to take any questions. I've got some workshops and new courses coming up, so keep an eye out if you want more information about graphic facilitation for English language teachers. Okay, thanks very much, and happy poster making. I'm looking forward to seeing them.